Hello and welcome to Connected. I'm Divya Gopalan. Now, take a look at these film posters. The first one that you should be seeing on your screen is of Reservoir Dogs. Now, that was the first feature-length movie directed by Quentin Tarantino. This next one is for Sex, Lies and Videotape. This movie helped Steven Soderbergh bag the Palme d'Or at the 1989 Cannes Film Festival. And the third and last one is Better Luck Tomorrow. That was the solo director debut for Taiwan-born Justin Lin, who went on to direct the Fast and Furious series of action movies. But what do all these movies have in common? Well, they all premiered at the iconic Sundance Film Festival, the biggest indie movie film extravaganza in the US. And as the story goes, the directors who were largely unknown when their movies hit the Sundance screens went on to become a force to be reckoned with in the movie industry. Well, the Sundance Film Festival Asia has for the first time been hosted in Taiwan, and today we're joined by Kevin Lin, the CEO of Meta Theory and the founder or co-founder of G2Go Entertainment, the producers of Sundance Film Festival Asia. And we also have Weiko Lin, who's in Los Angeles for us. He's a writer, producer, director, and an advisor for Sundance Institute Collab, and the graduate director of screenwriting at Loyola Marymount University. Thank you both so much for joining us today for this conversation. So Kevin, I'll start with you. What was the idea with bringing the festival here to Taipei?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke with Sundance about this earlier this year. In March, we started the conversation. Sundance Film Festival Asia is an annual event, so a once-a-year festival held in Asia in a host country. Last year it was in Jakarta. Prior to COVID, it was Hong Kong. And they presented the opportunity to bring it to Taiwan. And the core idea was simple. I'm not really from the film industry. I dabble, I guess, in the film space, but I met a lot of folks tangentially and made some friends in the space throughout my career. But the goal really was to twofold, primarily, as to be an additive event and festival and sort of system, sort of program system to shine a global light on Taiwan filmmakers and the, sort of their creative output. That's the main thing. The second is, on a similar vein, there's always a shorts competition for the host, where citizens of the host country can submit shorts into a competition and win an award. But importantly, it does help, while not guaranteed, oftentimes it helps propel them into Sundance Park City, the official flagship event. And so that way, those two communities can start to overlap, intertwine, connect, get to know each other, and use that as sort of a catapult into the global film community more so. Now, last year, actually, the first Taiwanese film in 2022 did win a jury prize at Sundance in Park City. So it's a great start for the local community. So for those here in the Taiwanese film industry that do want the option to leverage a Sundance or as a potential event and lens to get into that more global community. That's sort of the reason why we brought it here. But we love film. We think Taiwanese are really amazing creatively in general. But one small thing we can do for the community here.
So in that sense, Weiko, can you give us a sense of the significance and the importance of having this kind of a film festival, this kind of branding here in Taipei?
I think it's an incredible, and thank you, Kevin, for launching that in Taiwan. And I think after Ang Lee, his trio of Taiwanese films, that he did, over 20 years ago, Taiwanese films haven't really been on the map, I think, as much and just on the global stage in terms of talking about North America. And by having Sundance Film Festival, which is obviously the global film festival, but is a very North America-centric film festival, to have launching in Taiwan, I think is incredible. The awareness that it brings, I think it's a big first step of a long journey. And I just think and as we continue doing that, I think it's going to bring attention to all the great talent that we have here in Taiwan.
And Kevin, given that it's just happened and maybe hard to gauge what the future effects would be, what would you say it was the immediate effect and what it might have achieved right away for Taiwan's film industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think the major effect, the feedback we heard was it was somewhat different type of festival than what you have seen in Taiwan, particularly around bringing the international folks in. So Justin Lin, who you mentioned, of Better Luck Tomorrow and Fast and Furious fame, Dan Lin of Lego Movie, Sherlock Holmes, live action Aladdin, legendary producer, also came out to give a talk. Joaquin Zell, famous colorist and technologist in the space, George Huang, Todd McElrath, who spoke as well about directing and producing. And they also hung out. They also got to know people here, along with others, Taiwan, DBK, and many others who came to interact and build a bridge to the local community was a unique aspect of this. And that was one of the, I think, most exciting effects for a lot of people, but also just getting to meet the Sundance team, to see a different lens on Taiwan filmmaker at a macro level. And for Taiwan filmmaker community to start to understand what is the globe looking for, not just what the Taiwan audience is looking for. And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's really what your ambitions are as a filmmaker. Here's this option for you to get some critique that you might not otherwise be able to get. And notably, the 9 finalists that were selected had some overlap with the local films, local film competitions, but not entire overlap. So again, it's just a different flavor, a different taste, and what do we do with that as a community? How do we adapt to that if we want to, and how do we, if we want to, do we submit more and sort of adapt to that critique, learn from the Sundance this incredible sort of filter of content that really represents what the audience members are looking for on a global level. So that was one of the cool effects, but a lot of it was really, just networking. And what was really great to see too is the number of questions that were asked after panelists and speakers finished was really cool. It was really active, really engaged, really excited. So we had one fan of Justin Lin's absolutely go bonkers and cause the audience to start cheering about their love for Justin. So it was great. I mean, it was just a great feeling to see that fanaticism for Sundance and the guests that came and the films that were shown.
Right. I want to jump on this theme of the macro level that you've been speaking about, Kevin, and we are going to have a sneak peek into some of those films that entered the competition you were talking about. But before we go to that, Weiko, let's talk about the bigger picture here. You were at the Utah Sundance Film Festival, and of course this is very nascent and in the beginning stages in Taiwan, the festival here. But let's talk about the indie scene. How would you compare, or where's Taiwan indie film scene in comparison to the U.S. indie film scene or the more established film scenes?
Right. Well, I think the Taiwan film industry still operates like a lot of countries, except for Hollywood and, England. It still operates on a very independent film model, right? So I think definitely just having the awareness. When I was there, I saw this amazing film called Past Lives, which is distributed by A24, actually made by A24, same distributor as Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it was mostly in Korean language, but it's a combination of the Korean diaspora, if you will. And I think there's great opportunities for Taiwan films to not emulate per se, but to be open wide, like Kevin's mentioning, having that global connect, right? Not saying that Taiwanese filmmakers go and make English language films. You still maintain that Taiwanese local sensibility. But in terms of the narrative structure, when we talk about global connect, even at the Sundance film level, structure is quite important, right? So you go from films like Parasite, it has a global structure. In terms of global structure, meaning the global audience can connect with that structure, right? It's what they're used to. And we go back to Ang Lee's films, Ang Lee's films from Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, to The Wedding Banquet, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon to some extent. It had that narrative structure that really connected with a global audience, and it's very quintessential Taiwanese. So I think with this kind of moment, what Kevin had done here, I really anticipate and look forward to more films from Taiwan making a splash on these film festivals like Sundance moving forward.
Right. Before we move on, I want to give you a sneak peek of some of the films that have come out and some of the directors that spoke out at this year's Sundance Film Festival Asia. Jay Chern has spoken to some of Taiwan's new and exciting filmmakers, at the film festival. Take a look.
The 2023 edition of Sundance Asia was held in Taipei, Taiwan. Along with inviting international renowned filmmakers to hold master panels and share their experiences with Taiwan, a short film competition was also held, showcasing new Taiwanese talent to the world. Now, let's hear from some of the nominated filmmakers.
I'm Tai Chin. I'm the director of Is This Now the Time I Should Let You Go? And I just graduated from Reanima, and it is a European joint master. So I just came back like 1 month ago, and now I'm working as a freelance director.
My name is Xiarui Qian, you can call me Rex, and The Unexpected Passenger is talk about a taxi driver, and during the way to the destination, he found out the passenger actually has a purpose on him. I was trying to find my second chance to make a short film. So I saw a channel called Together with Film. They actually had a workshop which provides a little funds for the shooting. So apply for this workshop, and they have like mentor who can give us support, and from the very beginning to the proposal, to the script, to the post-production. And before I applied for this workshop, they actually have the thing called the courage. So I was thinking, what is courage?
我是唐豪，然后我其实是北医大毕业的，然后去年有去念北大研究所，但念了半年就休学了。然后现在就是平常就是拍片，拍一些广告 MV， 然后写一些剧本，然后现在还是希望再准备下一部短片，然后希望就是在拍几部短片之后，未来还是可以走一个剧情长片的路这样子。
Kevin, was there anything at the film festival that you saw that jumped out at you, that you felt or gave you an indication that Taiwanese films can really make an impact on a global scale?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really large and vibrant community. Just for the panels, what we call the master panels, which were sponsored by Barco and MEA at the Sintren Theater on the 12th floor, 400 people per day showed up for that. And we weren't sure. We really weren't very sure how many people would come to this. And it was awesome to see. And when they, I believe Justin asked folks to raise their hands if you were in the community, if you were a filmmaker, writer, director, producer, student. And by my quick eyeball count, probably 70, 80% were. And that's just a small slice. And you look at the folks who are Taiwanese and want to give back, including the folks that I mentioned already that came, and Hong Li, as Weiko mentioned, and so many others, Anita Go, and a lot of these rising stars and established stars as well. And the reality is, the industry loves Taiwan. People love coming here. It is, in a way, a cinematographer's dream, because it is a really varied ecosystem. There's old, there's new, there's city, there's rural, there's mountains, there's rivers, there's hot springs, there's beach. There's almost any scene that you might possibly need to shoot, and there's a lot of government support for filmmaking through TAICA, Ministry of Culture. A lot of the sort of big corporate sponsors are very much about bringing the arts to Taiwan and support it financially.
If we kind of drill down to the talent here, Weiko, the whole idea of where are the filmmakers here and with regard to talent and experimenting, are they going far enough? And is it enough, is there enough support for them to break through on an international scale?
Yeah, look, I feel they experiment plenty in Taiwan, right? But in terms of experimental and the filming, telling the films that they want to tell and make, but I think the emphasis, there's always a conversation whenever I'm in the industry in Taiwan. There's the one thing that always talk about is the lack of screenwriters, right? Of quality, skilled, talented screenwriters. And it is such an important kind of role that gets basically just by the nature of the Asian kind of film industry, where the director is placed in first position, right? They're the one that controls the entire creative flow. You work with the directors. However, in the U.S., it's really the producer's medium, right? Even the independent films, it's a combination. It's a partnership between the producer, and the writer and the director, moving forward. So I think in terms of, they do push it up, but I think what's lacking in terms of getting Taiwan films more international level, it's not the talent, it's not the production value, because they have high production value, high in specific perspective point of view. I think it's basically the structure of the narrative storytelling that could be supported more, that could make that connectability, that can foster more storytelling of universal human emotionality that the global audience can connect with. So you could have the experimental and specific kind of point of view, but I think it's really critically important that the screenwriters, are able to kind of financially make a living, even though directors are having a challenging time to make a living as well, I'm sure, but it's to foster that. It's to foster that writing and directors, the importance of the writer, the point of view of writers. So the writers are not just
And you're
becoming...
saying it's not happening right now because they're maybe not pressured, but it probably is more financially beneficial to kind of go the mainstream route and the more commercial route?
Oh, not necessarily. Oh, financial commercial route, but I think it's just more of the, it's very director-driven versus producer-driven, right? Perhaps, right? So, and I think in the States, in the U.S., in Hollywood, whether independent films versus commercial films, it's always been very producer-driven kind of medium in partnership with the director. But the most emphasis has always been on the screenplay. The importance has been placed on the screenplay. So I think by putting more emphasis on that, I think there'd be really great opportunity to get that experimental point of view, get that artistic point of view, that specific point of view, that really fresh and unique talent and voice of the Taiwanese filmmakers onto the global stage. But it starts with the narrative structure, which starts with the script, the screenwriting portion of it.
I don't know how accurate this will be, Kevin. I believe that one of the challenges Taiwanese filmmakers will be facing is being put in the whole Chinese language film genre. And then they're competing with these massive budgets you're getting from China and massive productions. Do you see Taiwanese filmmakers or Taiwan's film industry being able to compete with that, or at least kind of challenge that?
Oh, certainly. I mean, if you look at the history of film, it's not always the biggest films that are most marginally profitable, or even from a strict cash volume perspective, a $200 million budget doesn't necessarily beat a $5 million budget every time. Is it easier? Yes. Are there other parts of that system that benefit those types of productions? For sure. And in a way, you're sort of not cheating, but like you have all these extra benefits as a large studio that an independent filmmaker wouldn't have. But you look way back at films like Blair Witch Project, made on an absolute shoestring budget, $50 million, right? I think it's all about, it's really, as Weiko said, in the screenwriting at the start, right? The script is the IP. The script is the hard part. It is figuring out what is that core story, and from there, figuring out budgeting, casting, etc., all the little bits and pieces. But if you create an engine that is excellent at that baseline IP creation point at script level, I think that is maybe an interesting point to focus on as a local filmmaker community. And this is a long play, right? This is not going to happen overnight. And it really highly depends on the ambitions of not only the individuals, but the community overall in support of this. From a language perspective, some of the biggest IP in the world that came out of nowhere just happened in the last couple of years, and they were not English and they were not Chinese. Look at Squid Game. Squid Game was in 24 hours, I don't know if this is factually true, but I think it's probably directionally correct. It went from zero, where basically no one knew about it aside from maybe some trailers, and some super fans that loved the trailer might have read a little bit about it through a few articles, but it basically went from zero knowledge to 120 million people literally overnight, and became one of the most popular IPs in the world instantaneously. And it was in Korean. Japanese anime in Japanese, subtitled in English. One of the most popular content verticals in the world now. And so I don't think language is really the barrier.
I'm going to stay with languages, and I want you to listen to this. London-based Mingye Ronsley is a former television writer and also researcher on Taiwan cinema and Chinese language cinema. And here's her reply to our question on what sets Taiwanese cinema apart from what we're seeing coming from China.
I think Taiwan cinema today is very much an filmmaker-led, filmmaker-oriented cinema, while the mainland Chinese cinema is much more authority-led. I think that is the major difference. So different systems will both have the opportunity to create good and bad films. However, when it's artist-led, the filmmakers-led cinema, it will have a lot more diversity, and also the filmmakers will be able to translate and talk about their own real life experience. So I think that's much closer to the their own reflection about the land and also the life in general. So I think that's a subtle difference about Taiwan cinema. It transcends a much truer experience of individuals. So it will be much more relatable to the pulse of the time, the place, and maybe also to the world, rather than authority-led. Then there's another layer of concerns, which perhaps is not as close to the reality in many ways.
Right. So Weiko, unfortunately, you still, like, money still talks in this industry, and Hollywood has been looking to China to reach one of its biggest movie markets. And given what we're seeing, with China getting more close and perhaps sentiment not being that friendly towards China, is this something that Taiwan can now take advantage of, perhaps changing sentiment towards China? And where is Taiwan's edge on that?
I think there's an incredible opportunity simply because I feel with technology, Taiwan, obviously we have the Taiwanese language, but there's also the Mandarin language of the scripted content. And more people in the world speak Mandarin, right, than almost other languages. It's widely spoken. So I think there's an audience for that, and that's an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity to cooperate with international co-productions, moving forward. And when I say cooperate with international co-productions, I don't mean having other countries come to shoot in Taiwan. I mean a collaborative effort. I hate to be going, I love to go back to Ang Lee's films. Ang Lee from his, The Wedding Banquet, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. By the way, all three were nominees for Best International Films at the Oscars, right? Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon eventually won. It's a Mandarin language, it's a slow-paced Mandarin language film that's still the top non-English language film in North America. That's highest gross box office, above Parasite, above all this, above Everything Ever all at Once, even though it's English, but it holds the box office record. And Lust Caution. And if you go back to the collaboration, it was between him and writer-producer James Schamus, right? Who co-wrote those films, right? Who produced those films. They collaborated. It was a perfect kind of conjunction of East and West effort. And I feel like the Chinese language film from Taiwan, Mandarin language film, was an incredible success. So I think Taiwan absolutely has the opportunity here.
Right, Kevin, and one topic you can particularly talk about is Taiwan's technology advances and the edge it has in that aspect. How can that be used to give Taiwan a bigger platform on the global cinema sphere?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly from the industry, so I can't tell you exactly what the technological limitations elsewhere are necessarily. But my understanding from folks who have visited here and who are in the filmmaking community here, we have a lot of resources. There are virtual production studios, motion capture studios that are leveraging latest and greatest technology available here. And so it may not be as, let's say, up to speed as other places, particularly America, maybe London, and other popular filming locations, but Taiwan has resources to invest in the technology as needed. I think one hot topic, which is a touchy one these days, is AI. leveraging AI for speed and efficiency of creation in all aspects, and doing it in ethical ways. I do believe that a community such as Taiwan's would think about it from the ground up, and what is the best way to deploy this, which is fair to everyone involved. I think there's an opportunity to think that way. Besides that, there's a lot of budget here. Taiwan is a very, wealthy country in a sense, and TAICA, one of the groups, one of the government funds, is focused specifically in this vertical of creative arts. And I think overall, the community here is really trying to deploy. And so it's really up to these conversations across these different groups to figure out, what is this tech? What is the core tech that we would need to either build or somehow acquire in order to be more effective at film creation, content creation in general. I think those conversations are happening now, which is really exciting.
Kevin, Weiko, I feel like we barely scratched the surface in this conversation, but unfortunately we've run out of time there. There's so much more to talk about, and let's do this again soon. This is where I say goodbye to both of you. Kevin Lin, Weiko Lin, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being on this program. And it's fantastic to get the Sundance Film Festival Asia here, and I understand there's plenty more coming in the future. So thank you both, and we will continue this conversation. And to our viewers at home, I hope you learned a thing or two about Taiwanese films and Taiwan's film industry. Thank you so much for your company. Do stay connected.